Joining me now to talk more about COVID restrictions, the budget, public safety, and more, Republican State Senator Mark Johnson, Deputy Majority Leader, and DFL Senator Susan Kent, the Minority Leader. Welcome back to the studio in person. We're very excited for in person. That's great. Let's start with you, Senator Johnson. Speaker Hortman late today said it will be, quote, very difficult to finish on time. Do you agree with that timeline?
Yeah, as the leaders of the legislature, our goal is always to make sure that we finish on time. We've got a few issues that are coming up, namely federal funds, how you mix that into the batch and come out at the end of the year and prioritize. What are our priorities at the end of the year? So we've got a lot of strong priorities this year, and it's taken a little more time to work through them, but we're still working towards regular session, try to end at that time. But it does get difficult.
Senator Kent, is it possible maybe if there's agreement, a couple of budget bills could get through yet this weekend and maybe some things get done before Monday, but not everything?
I am of the belief that we need to push through and do the best we can. I have to say I'm real concerned because the Senate Republican-led conference committees are not showing up, or they show up and then they leave, or they have the gavel but they don't call hearings. We need to be doing the work. There are things our members can be doing to make sure that we are prepared to pass as much as possible by midnight on Monday.
Okay, can conference committees do work if they don't have budget targets? You know, conference committees were busier earlier in the week. They've kind of slowed down. We hear it's just because they don't have any work to do until they get their spending targets. Is that the holdup?
Yeah, one of the biggest things, I sit on Judiciary Committee. Well, target is a big issue on how do we put our final package together. So we continue to meet. We've met since last week. We're going through this week. Today we took some time to look at proposals. Same with the tax committee. They're continuing to meet. Other committees are continuing to meet. So the work that can be done is still trying to move forward here until we get those targets.
Let me follow up, because public safety and judiciary in particular, they have a lot of non-budget things on the table, especially what the House brought, and the real pressure and expectation from the broader community to do something on more police reform. Is the Senate at some point likely to take some of the House language on that?
Yeah, I can't speak to whether we're going to be taking House language. We're not opposed to it. We're looking for those priorities, shared priorities with police, with community members, with all those folks. And we've really had a great opportunity to weigh out both sides through this conference committee. So we're not opposed to that at all, but we got to find where we have some commonality through that.
Senator Kent, today the governor and the faith community basically said it's a moral imperative to act on this. Senator Latz was quoting the Bible and saying it would be a sin not to act. How heavy and how important is it for the legislature to deliver something like this?
I think that if the legislature is listening to Minnesotans, they know that this matters, that this is important, and it is a moral imperative. We have to be able to make sure that everyone in Minnesota feels safe and is safe in their own communities. But we didn't ever have any of the hearings during regular session on these very questions. We could have been looking into this in greater detail, and now here we are in the final days, and it's still a sense that they're stonewalling and slow walking and not engaging in these conversations.
Okay, last word on the stonewalling on it, slow walking it?
I think what we're looking for is some targets to make sure that we can really prioritize what we're going to be moving forward. We're not stonewalling this. We are definitely looking for those solutions. So that's the type of rhetoric that's starting to stall out these proceedings and making people kind of pull apart. We want to work together. That's what we want to get to. So stonewalling is not the appropriate term to be using.
Okay, next point. Earlier, we had Senator Johnson mention federal money. That is key to this session, really. We were looking at a big deficit. Now it's a big surplus, and the federal money is the reason. How sticky is it, or how easy should it be with all this federal money coming in, Senator Kent?
I was describing earlier today that our budget is like three-dimensional chess, more so than ever this year. Yes, we have to make the numbers add up on a column. We also have to look at it over time. But we also now have to figure out where the federal funds plug into this, and we really didn't have clarity on that until Tuesday. So I think the speaker said earlier today that has sort of changed the conversations, and hopefully now that we have that information, we're going to be able to act and really, because we need the legislature to have a real voice in how we spend that and help people get back from COVID and position us to move strongly into the future.
Yeah, speaking about a voice, the Senate Republican caucus was very clear in talking about their disappointment how some of the federal money has been spent by the executive and the governor. So what kind of compromise language do you think could get through in the legislature having say on this?
Sure. First of all, I want to say this is going to be a very bipartisan interview today, because I agree completely with Senator Kent on having the legislative control over that federal money was very, very important. So, there are different ideas that are floated out there. Maybe the governor could have some control. Maybe legislature could have oversight over all of it. That's, again, some of those priorities that we're going to be hashing through over the next couple of days to get to those targets.
And you think you can agree on that? Does there seem to be some agreement coming together on it?
I think there are some obvious places where there are big needs in Minnesota, and we should be able to get to that, I would hope, pretty soon.
Let's talk about the clock, because special sessions aren't special anymore. They're commonplace, as we said, and COVID obviously complicates things this year. But it seems like there's a couple of dates we should alert our viewers to. One, it sounds like June 14th, the legislature will be coming back anyway for special session because of the governor's emergency powers. Let's start with that. Is that a given?
We're working to end on time. That's number one. If we go past our time, then we will be coming back on June 14th. And now with the federal funds that have really mixed into this discussion, we might need that time to finally figure things out.
Is that the realistic return date at this point, June 14th?
Okay, so we're going to have more bipartisanship here. Okay. Again, we really want to get our work done during regular session. But the importance of keeping the emergency powers is because there's a lot of federal money that is tied to that, $40 million a month that goes to help feed neediest Minnesota families. And so that's why we'll be coming back June 14th. For sure. Okay. And that leaves the door open for legislators, which has been known to go over, relieve the pressure. Yeah.
Next date, you won't be surprised, June 30th, because this is when you have to have a budget or state government starts shutting down. Is that the real deadline, and can both of you promise not to shut down government? Senator Johnson?
Yeah. So June 30th is a critical deadline. It's been made more critical due to a Minnesota Supreme Court case. Before, we used to have a panel of judges that were able to dole out dollars to different areas and basically fund necessary state government. This time around, since that court ruling, we're no longer able to do that. So that means a government shutdown. Not just somebody's going to be open, somebody's going to be closed, but shut down. So this is a critical date, and we need to figure out our budget before that date.
This is real impact. June 30th is a scary date, isn't it?
Well, I think we shouldn't wait till June 30th. I think we should get this done just as soon as we possibly can and provide certainty to all of the programs and all of the great Minnesotans who deliver those services in state government. And that's what Minnesotans are expecting us to do. We have one job, and we need to do it.
After June 30th comes July 4th. I've lived through some government shutdowns and the possibility that state parks and the outdoors that Minnesotans love could be shut down. Senator Johnson, Democrats are saying Senator Ingebrigtsen holding up some of the environmental money in the budget over this clean cars issue could end up shutting down state parks July 4th. Is that an accurate depiction?
No, I think right now let's focus on what's going on in the state legislature. I think Senator Ingebrigtsen has his differences, and I think Representative Rick Hansen have their differences. But it's way too early to be talking about full-on government shutdowns at this point. We've got a lot of time to be discussing this and coming to compromises. So I think it's just inappropriate to be talking about that at this point.
Senator Kent, Democrats are very upset about this, though. I'm hearing about it a lot.
Well, I agree. Senator Johnson just said we need to be coming to compromises. And when somebody comes in and draws that strong a line that says we're going to shut this down unless you give us our way, that is not conducive to working together. And that is not conducive to coming to compromises. And it's not helpful.
The other issue between federal and state interplay is taxes. Those of us who are writing checks on Monday may not be so happy, checks to the state in particular, because the state is not in conformity with the federal government, which could create a lot of pain and a lot of angst for many Minnesotans, whether it's business relief, unemployment relief, other federal conformity issues. Is there any chance this gets tied up neatly? It seems like this one is already too late with the tax bills due on Monday for individuals. Senator Johnson?
Sure. It's right now we've got a $4.4 billion budget surplus in our state. Taxes should not be a question right now if we're going to raise tax or not. That should be off the table discussion. We have way more money in this government than what we need to be spending at this point.
And you heard the House kind of took it off the table. House leaders said, it's not necessary.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any official reports on that yet. But to me, I think that's an acknowledgement then, if that does come true, that they realize that Minnesotans are not going to be up for getting more taxes put on them at this time.
Senator Kent, do Democrats risk angering Minnesotans who are writing checks on Monday to the state?
And just to be clear, I think we're talking about the PPP conformity and also the unemployment insurance conformity. And, that was the problem that we in the Senate DFL had when we passed the PPP conformity out of the Senate. We want to pass that. We want that to be there. But we also need to make sure that we don't leave Minnesota workers behind. We should be doing both. I think there's room to do it. It is going to be challenged to try to do that as an isolated element. So we'll just have to see. But that's one more reason to get our work done.
Great. Quick final word. How'd it go returning to the Senate this week? Senator Johnson?
It's fun to have the energy back again, because the legislature, of all the places in the state, that's where relationships, communication, that's where that really matters.
Really quick.
And, it is good to be with our colleagues, but I worry about our staff, many of whom are younger and have unvaccinated kids at home. I don't know why we needed to do this with just 1 week left to go.
Okay. Thanks, you two. Appreciate having you in studio.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.